All right, everybody, it is time for another Tips and Tricks Moments with the Chronicle software. My name is Blake. I work with Xima software, and I'm going to be walking you through a new feature that we have today that we're really excited about. Now, what I want to point out is this new feature is actually part of our most recent update, which is going to be version 3.6.55 of Chronicle. So if you have not done that update yet, I do highly recommend that you do, in particular so you can get this feature. What we're going to discuss today is a new feature called Notes. Okay, so Notes actually allows us to do several things, but the main idea behind it is I can now add notes to phone calls within Cradle to Grave and within the Chronicle software so that I can actually keep track of information on those calls. And I can find it easily within Cradle to Grave, as well as a few other a few other points of Chronicle. So we'll take a look at everything today, but let's just go ahead and sign into Chronicle. Now, once I sign in, the first place we're going to start is within the Cradle to Grave section. So this is going to be part of base license. So if you have Chronicle, obviously, then you can use this part of it. So we're going to come in here where it says Cradle to Grave, and the main thing I want to point out here, first of all, is I'm going to find a time frame. This can, of course, be for any day, but I'm going to go to a time frame that I'm familiar with back here in February. So I'm going to go ahead and select the 22nd through the 26th. Now, we're going to come back a little bit later and use a few of these filters, or at least take a look at a few of these filters here. But for the time being, I'm actually going to just go ahead and hit Execute. Now, once I hit execute, what that's going to do is it's going to go through and pull every single call that took place during that time frame, as you know. But what you'll notice here now, if you haven't seen this before, or if you've done that update and haven't noticed this yet, or once you do that update, you will now have a column called C2G Notes. I'm going to move that over here so it's a little bit easier to see. And you can see that I've actually added a few notes here into this section. Okay, so really, really simple. Okay, so what you're going to see here is with this new column, if I needed to add a note to one of these phone calls, let's say this phone call right here, and maybe I listened to a recording of that call and I thought, you know what, I should add some information. Or maybe I see that call and say, you know what, this information needs to be present. Whatever that might be, if I need to add a note to this call, really simple. All I have to do is I just come in here and click in this Notes section, and that allows me to add my note. Here, if I can spell, is my new note. There we go. Okay, so there's my new note. If I needed to add that, I just type that in, hit OK, and there you go. You can see now it actually gives me a preview of that note. Now, obviously, you might type a paragraph or whatever it might be, but I can always see a preview of those notes that have been added to Chronicle. Excuse me. There we go. Okay, so we can see here is my new note. Now, that's the first part of this. I can automatically just add a note to those calls. But what if I've got a note for every single call, and each one of them says something different, and I need to quickly find those calls, okay? Maybe I have a lot of different phone calls that happen throughout the day, and it's hard, and I don't want to take the time to try to find those just by looking at each of these calls. So there are two ways that I can actually filter down or quickly find those notes. The first way is through our quick filter tool, or quick search tool, excuse me. I can open this up, and I can come in here, and I'm going to say, okay, maybe one of the calls that I'm looking for is one of them that has the word question in it. Okay, so I've typed in question. It shows me I've got two instances of that word question in my notes. So here's the first one, C2G Notes. This is the call in question. If that's not the one I'm looking for, then I can actually click on the next arrow here, and it will drop me down to the next call. This is the call in question. Okay, so you can see I can quickly search for those calls using their notes as kind of that filter. Okay, so that's the first thing I can do. I've got my quick search tool there. Now, the next thing I have access to is found here in this criteria section. Within criteria, it's going to pull up that main Cradle to Grave menu again, but here's what I wanted to show you. Under the call level filter section, I now have a few new items, okay? And with these new items, it makes those notes much easier to find. So the first thing you'll notice is here I've got this section called Note Authored By. So if I wanted to find all of the notes or the calls that have notes added by Blake, I could come in here and select the ellipsis tool here and come in and find Blake's name, or type in Blake's name, and it would show you all of those calls that were authored by Blake. Excuse me, those notes authored by Blake. Okay, this is the one I like to use most often, though, where it says note contains text. Okay, so I can come in here, and I actually, instead of having this put at equal, I actually like to drop it down to contains. And the reason I do that is just because I don't always remember word for word or specifically what it was that I wrote verbatim. Okay, so I like to just come in here, and maybe I'm just going to put the word question. Okay, so I can type in the word question, and that means it's going to look for all notes that have the word question found therein. Okay, so I can type that in, hit OK, and you'll notice here it says note contains text, one selected. From there, I'm going to go ahead and hit execute. And what will happen from there again is it will pull every single call that has a note with that specific word found therein. So you can see here, I've got 2 calls, both of them. This is the call in question. Okay, so that's just a really, really quick, simple way to find those calls for which I've added those notes. Okay, so that's really, really where these notes come into play, is within Cradle to Grave. So really, really simple. So that, of course, is part of that base license. Now, there are a few other features I want to discuss. The next thing I want to mention is this. If you have the Custom Reports module, you can actually come in here and create a report. Most often, it's going to be a detailed report. So like this call report here, it shows call ID. I can come in here and build my report. We'll go ahead and, oops, that's not what I meant to do. I apologize. What I can do is I can come in here and hit next, and I'm going to hit add. Under add, I can do things like call direction. Perfect. I can do things like calling agent. Great. I can do things like this. Let's do initial agent. Okay. But what I can do here now as well is I can add a few note items. So we actually have 3. We can do, again, note author, so who authored notes. Okay. We also have note creation time, so that's different from what we've seen up to this point. So we have note creation time, which will show you when that note was created or when those notes were created. I can even do, again, note text. So I can add to this report a section that will show me all of the notes that were added to these calls. Okay. So I'll go ahead and select note text and hit OK. Once I finish this report creation, once I finish that report, it will end up in my list of reports. Okay, so I can come in here and here's my notes report, right? Here's my report that I created. From there, all I have to do is select my report time frame, select my charts, and then go ahead, if I wanted to add charts, that is, and I can go ahead and hit run report, and it will create that report for me, or it will pull that report up so I can see, here we go. There's my report, and here's my note text column. So I can see this is the call in question. I can see hello all. I can see this is the other call in question. Here is my new note, whatever that might be. Right, so really, really simple to do, but this allows me not only to see, call direction, initial agent, final agent. I can also see all of those calls if they have, including the notes that have been added to those calls. So really, really simple to do. So again, that's part of the Custom Reports module. Now, the last thing I want to show you actually takes place as part of what we call our Agent Dashboards module. So I'm actually going to minimize Chronicle because the Agent Dashboards module functions off of our Chronicle desktop. But what will happen is anytime I get a call or make a call, if you're familiar with Agent Dashboards, I actually get a little screen pop that looks very similar to this. Okay, so this is an inbound call, so it would show me who's calling, where they're calling from. But here's the other nice feature that I can do here. I can actually come in here and right-click on this, and I can add notes here as well. So I can come in here, and I can type discussed their appointment, whatever that might be. Okay, once I hit OK, that note is now added to this call, and when I see this call in Cradle to Grave, kind of like we've already seen, I will see that note right next to that call. Okay, so really a nice little feature. So I'm not only adding notes through Cradle to Grave. If I have Agent Dashboards, I can also add those notes through Agent Dashboards, which again makes my life just a little bit easier. So that's what I wanted to show you today. That's our new notes feature. As I mentioned, if you have not yet updated to version 3.60.55, I do highly recommend that you do that so that you can have access to those notes now. This isn't something we've always been able to do. We haven't always been able to search for those notes or anything like that. So this is really, really great. We're very excited about this. So as always, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. You can call our support staff at 1-888-944-9462, option 4, and we will do everything we possibly can to make Chronicle the best and easiest software out there. Okay, thanks everyone. Have a great day.